Oh, come walk with me to the house of God. Come sing and praise. Atwe chate, kiasu bon Dieu, pardonnez-nous. Oh, come walk with me to the house of God. Come sing and pray. Au nom du Père, du Fils et du Saint-Esprit, ainsi soit-il. Par mon Dieu, nous honorons, nous glorifions pour après-midi. Heavenly Father, we praise, we bless, we glorify you for this evening. Nous venons ensemble encore pour nous honorer Yeshua. Mafa. Bel cadeau ben nous saint ici, bel don ben nous. Remercions pour la sagesse pour travail pour héritage qui ben nous. We thank you, Lord God, for the wisdom you've given her, for her contribution, her heritage to education in this land. Et puis quand nous venons ensemble après-midi, nous commandons pour nous l'esprit pour nous honorer et pour nous honorer Mafa. As we gather this afternoon, we ask you, give us a spirit to honor you and to honor our sister. Nous avons tout bagay en amont, puis c'est vous qui mettez, c'est vous qui papa. Et c'est vous qui montrez nous manière pour prier. We put everything in your hands because you are Lord and you've taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Au nom du Père, et du Fils, et du Saint-Esprit, ainsi soit-il.
Merci, Papa. Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. No, this is not anything formal, very informal. There will be no, protocol list and so on, irrespective of the fact that we have somebody of substance right before us, are there? Okay. But let me welcome you again to the ceremony for Dr. Mafa Isaac. Je voulais bienvenue tout le monde ici pour Lavéyé Mafa. Bon, vous savez, en créole, nous avons matché Mafa différent. Nous pas matché M-E-T-H-E, c'est M-E-F-E. Ça, c'est Mafa. Bon. Oui, M-E-F-E. F-A, et bien, confirme. D'accord. Eh bien, nous avons différentes paroles par différents mondes. We're hoping to have some, different people providing some tributes. And in the meantime, we'll have some fun, a little story here and there for us to, because in the early days, this is how the thing went. When you had a Lavéyé, the idea is to have the family to forget the dead for the time. No, you won't forget it, no matter what you do. But at that point in time, people are having fun, playing games and so on to, cheer up the family. And in so doing, everybody have fun, and afterwards, well, it might be something else. But, Lukaku must say, Cri! Cri! Tim! Tout ça, bon Dieu, mettez sur la terre. Il pas viande, il pas zo, mais il a fait viande, il a fait zo. Non, vous mangez quoi? Eh bien, c'est un Z, an egg. An egg. It's not meat, it's not bone, but it makes a fowl. Okay? Okay, ah oui. Okay, so who would be our first session? Nous allons continuer. The first session is we have, Tanya's choice. And Tanya, are you all ready? You sure? You're right here.
So I haven't performed in a while, and Baba asked me to do something, so sort of created a thing for this moment in time that's a combination of the thing that I do, which is the writing and the dancing and the moving and the music. So I'm going to...
spills, pours itself into existence. Everything is built on ashes and memory. Everything used to be something else before it broke. Or was a car. It is a brittle build from here to now, the fact of fracture. What it was falls right between the thing that happened and the imagination of its meaning, wrapped up too tightly to remember how to say its name, coiled up in good company with others of its kind. Everything breaks open. The other side is hair. Falling feels like everything at once, perfectly full, layer on layer on layer, built upon the fact of fracture, carved into scars and growing something different. Falling feels like folding in, broken and unopened. It is a brittle build from hair. If it does not speak and does not reach and does not stretch and does not break, it does not grow, it festers, and it ceases to exist. The fact of fracture is that to exist is to be broken. Everything rips open, spills, and pours itself into existence. All our pieces, hastily glued, carefully cemented, precariously balanced, mismatch edges, fit somewhere. Make space. We are already fiction, loose-leafed reinterpretations of collective imagination. Let it go.
Thank you, merci, Tanya. But once I say Jerusalem, or the news these days is all about Venezuela down south, and there is still an embargo out there, and you have heavy ships and so on in the waters out there, and we don't know what's going to happen anytime soon. But talking about this area, the president of Guatemala was able to train a parrot. So every time he walked into office, the parrot would salute him. It would say, "Viva el presidente y duque las quintas." Well, the next year, the very next year, they had elections, and the president lost, and a new president called Bautista came into office. So in the morning, the Bautista walked into office, and the parrot says, "Viva el presidente y duque las quintas." So the president said, okay. He hasn't understood the change yet. Give him a break, that's all right. Next morning again, president walks into office, the parrot again, "Viva el presidente y duque las quintas." President said, "No, this is a nonsense. Put this parrot into a cage." So one of the aides grabbed the parrot and put him in the cage, and inside the cage was a rooster. As the parrot arrived, the rooster advanced to cover. He said, "Wait, senor, you son of a bitch. I was sent here as a politician, not as a homosexual. And moreover, where have you ever seen a green fowl?" You see, so he was playing his politics. All right? He knew what he was doing all along, okay? All right, so now we have the family. It's important to know about the family of Dr. Isaac very early. And the introduction will be done by, is there someone who will be doing this introduction of the family? Okay. Can I have your name? Francisca. Okay.
Good day, everyone. I totally was ambushed today. So I did not know I would be speaking, but I'm really happy to. I'm not a daughter of Martha, but you probably may never know that. Because from the time I was 9, maybe, I've been in Martha's home, and she'd tell everybody who asked that I am her daughter. So I'm not a daughter by blood, but Martha was the kind of person who, I call her mommy, so it's strange to say Martha, but anyway, for the benefit of everybody, she taught me that family is not defined by blood. I think that was the biggest lesson for me growing up. I grew up in that home with her. I slept on her floor. Tanya and I grew up, we went to school together, and that's how I ended up in the home. And I have been in that home all my life, since 40-something years later. And for me, the lesson, again, that family is not defined by blood. Mommy was always really warm to me, really welcoming. There was never a moment that I felt like I was the friend. I was just always embraced in the family. She was always there with me. Sorry? And the eyes, oh Lord. When we do things, quiet grace. She talked the calmest way, but the eyes would give it away that she was not happy with us. So we would laugh a lot. You know, we would go through life, and then she would tell us, she'd always offer me courage. Courage, my child, courage. At some point, I'm like, Mommy, I had a lot of courage. I'm good. You know, so we would laugh about that over the years. But she was always a steady force in my life, always present. Omar came along and she embraced him. She encouraged us. She was always there. And that's just for me. I know how much she loved Tanya and Jan. I mean, I cannot even speak to that. That was her lifeblood, really. Her children and her grandchildren. She lived for them. She thought about them all the time. She had photos all over the house of them. It was all about her children and her grandchildren. So by extension, I entered into that family. She taught me how to love in many ways. I have been thinking a little bit about her and thinking about how her quiet grace and strength was so instructive to me. And I think it never dawned on me, of course, until now, when I've been thinking about her. And I thought, wow, she really shaped a lot of what I thought, what I wanted, and how I am as a person. Her quiet grace, her humble character, her strength, the love that she offered in such a quiet and unassuming way was really present for me. And I have been really thinking a lot about that. So this is the Martha that I knew and that I wanted to share with you. I think that's it for now. That's all I'd like to say. But thank you for asking me to do this. Yeah.
Thank you. Bon, commission pas chai. Et parole pas blesser bouche. Mais une délai, conseil c'est mépris. Par exemple, ou pas qu'à mettre chat de vie bé. Chat de manger bé. Ou pas qu'à marier chien avec ban bout de cochon. Chien de manger. Ou pas qu'à mettre magousse en calage poule. Magousse de manger poule là. Ou pas qu'à vendre cochon ni pour acheter bêtises. Souvent temps vendre cochon ni prendre acheter bagay qui bon. Ou pas qu'à prêter Jombi l'argent. Jombi par toi de côté. Et sous dans magasin pas buy Wofrat crédit ou pas qu'à jamais ici. Bon. L'autre c'est mon là qui nous monter encore in memory no personal tribute by them Paulette. The family, the children, yes. Moi pressé. Avant de voir, moi pressé. The children.
I also did not know I was going to be speaking. This was written by my cousin Gabrielle. This is my first time reading it aloud, so I'm sorry for any mistakes I make to you, Gabrielle, and for everyone else. Since I've awoken to the news on the morning on December 20th, 2025, I've had no words for how my life has changed. I've heard and read the countless tributes told. I've learned about Martha, the teacher, Martha, the mother, Martha, the daughter, Martha, the mentor, Martha, the aunt, the educator, the wife, and the daughter. I've heard of the impact she's had on people I never would have considered she would have impacted, but I'm not surprised that she did anyway. She's lived such a life that only now in my adult life I'm beginning to understand and learn about. Others have done justice to the woman she was and the legacy she's left behind, but I wanted to take a second to speak of her as a grandma. My grandma was the best I could ask for, kind, patient, and spoiled me some. I know she spoke of us with enormous pride and adoration, not because we did anything spectacular, although as her grandchildren we all have our share of accomplishments, but because we existed and that was enough. Not ranked in relation to each other, but each of us in our own right being special. I remember the countless trips to and from extracurriculars, the forbidden afternoon snacks, and the way she showed up for us in countless ways, from braving the North American winter for birthdays to enclosing the backyard just so we could have dogs. She has made all 5 of us who we are today and left a lasting impression on the core of who we are. Do what you want, but do it well, is the phrase we've not heard but felt, as she was proud of the people each of us were becoming. Such a constant in our lives, we could have gone forever without being ready for her departure. I know we will survive this because we would not be her grandchildren if we didn't. In our own ways, we will remember her and do justice to her memory. But most of all our lives we've known we are loved, we are special, and we have made her proud. We continue, each in our own little ways, to make our road by walking. We'll miss you forever, Grandma, and tell Dada we've missed him our whole lives. Do you want to say something now? You want to say something?
Okay. I also didn't know any of us were going to be speaking today, so I don't have anything written. But we've heard a lot in the last week or so about Dr. Martha Isaac. But we just knew her as, she was just grandma. I didn't know she was the principal of Ave Maria until like a week ago. I didn't know she wrote she wrote the school song until someone told me when I got here, because she wasn't the kind of person who talked about herself like that. She was just kind of quiet grandma who was there and always felt like she was 7 feet tall, because that's how she carried herself. Like Gabby wrote and Eve said, who loved all of her grandchildren just for as we were existing. We didn't have to do anything special. Grandma who sent me her eggnog recipe by telling me I needed to add enough milk because that's how measurements worked. And then told me that she couldn't give me an exact recipe because the recipe, she was writing it down by playing a video in her head of her mother making eggnog. So I'd just have to like fiddle with it and figure it out. Who told us when she was making bread, she added enough salt. Who insisted she didn't eat salted peanuts, but we saw her do it. Who told Eve and I in August that she only had KFC once a month. And Auntie Arlette said, but you had it last week. And she said, well, last week was July and now it's August. So it's fine. Who would come out of church and sit in the car and quietly tell me and Eve all the things that people had done wrong and that she didn't think were adequate. Who we teased endlessly about her comments about being very adequate. And that was the praise our mother got, and anything the grandchildren did was wonderful. And that was, we teased her about that from that point on. Yeah.
Okay, very good indeed. Bon, on a continué le conseil avec ça, c'est mépris, si l'on m'en opprime. Si vous ne savez pas vrai, pas répéter. Pas d'accord pour ça, pour mépris. Si c'est ta point, si pas ta quitter. Si pas ta quitter, ben là, ça pas ta quitter. Si vous pas au courant, pas dire rien. Now, I don't know if some of you understand the Creole, but let me try and say it in English. All right, these are sayings that people, that older folks used to say. All right, if you know it's not true, don't repeat it. If it's yours, you take it. If it's not yours, leave it alone. And if you're not informed, please don't say anything at all. Leave that alone. Okay? Eh bien, à présent, moi, quand même, un grand grec. You know what's a grand grec? Never heard about a grand grec? Oh, the family isn't finished yet? Oh, okay. The family, you still have some more stuff to say? Eh? Oh, okay. All right, some more from the family.
So like Francisco, who just talked, I've been a part of this family for more years than Francisco. And I can't imagine not having, for me, she was anti-Fidelis. I didn't know her as Dr. Isaac or Martha. For me, she was anti-Fidelis. And I cannot imagine having a life that she wasn't in. For me, she always asked the question, why? If I was going to do something, why would you do that? Or why would you not do that? And I find myself always hearing her voice in my head asking, why not? How could you do it differently? How could you do it better? She will never be gone for me because, like I said, she's inside of me, a part of who I am. And so, because she taught me so much, this is what I would like to read. It's from Khalil Gibran, and it's on teaching. Speak to us of teaching, and he said, no man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may speak to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the air which rests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell you of the regions of weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. And even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so must each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God and in his understanding of the earth. And for me, this is what she has tried to point all of us to her entire life.
Anybody else from the family in memory? Okay.
My grandmother, growing up in the United States, my grandmother has always been my connection to this island and this country. And if you couldn't tell just from the fact that I decided to come back, I'm a very talkative person. My grandmother was never impressed because I told her, my teachers tell me I need to talk less in class and start listening. But that's something that I'm very proud of. It can come in very useful. But my grandmother, as I'm sure any of you would have heard from anyone, you could always tell what she thought, whether she was displeased with you or whether she was really happy. You could see it in her eyes, But she was very quiet and graceful in the way that she carried herself in the world. And because of how that impacted me, what that taught me, she showed me, I was able to learn from her that there are moments where being able to communicate what you want to without words is very valuable. And I was able to learn that from her. My grandmother was always very proud of all of us. She, as my sister said, anything the grandchildren did was wonderful, even though my mother's, we like to tease her about, my mother was very happy about being called fairly adequate. And because of the connection I had to my grandmother, that was almost the same as the connection that I had to the island. And so she inspired me to have the understanding and to seek the understanding of the island and the culture that I have now. I wanted to learn French and Creole. I wanted to go to as many events as I could. I wanted to get traditional wear. I always loved this island so much because of my grandmother. And if I did not have that connection, I would not have the connection to this place that I do now. Thank you.
You coming forward, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I speak as... What? I'm not the herring. Oh, yeah, the other daughter. One of the other daughters. So Janice and I have known each other since Ave Maria Infant School. She was 4 and I was 5 or something like that. And we've remained in touch. We went away to university, Janice to Cave Hill, me to Morne, and we've remained in touch. Over the years, we've been all over the world, and we've still maintained. I first met Janice's mom many years ago when she had come back from Cave Hill, I think it was, and she was at Ave Maria as the principal. And over the years, I've had contact. I stayed with them when I came back as a junior doctor and I couldn't live in Dennery because I was on call. I stayed in the house during the week. And we became a little bit closer. I went away again to study and came back. And by then, Janice had gone away. And then when Janice went away the second time, she said, oh, I've told my mom to give you a key so that you can just come in anytime and make sure she's okay. And over the years, we've become, she makes me laugh so much. She would lie on the floor and I'd sit on the chair or vice versa, and we'd just talk and laugh. And she became my confidant, and to the point where Janice would sometimes say to me, I feel like you're more my mother's friend than mine. But I have two things that I want to talk about, and I hope I don't embarrass David, because one of them is about him. So we in one of our Sunday, it was often Sunday afternoon. Either she'd be on the floor and I'd be on the sofa or vice versa. And she said, gosh, that boy David. So she tells me about David, 9-year-old, and at the time, Janice and the kids were living downstairs, and she was upstairs with an open connection between the stairs. And so she went downstairs, and she said she opened David's room, and it was an absolute mess. And she said, you need to clean your room. And he said to her, why are you invading my privacy? And she said to him, you better get used to it, because I'll be invading your privacy until you're 40. And David, she says, about 10 seconds later says, no, you won't, you'll be dead. So I said to her, what did you say? She said, I looked at him, I turned around, I went upstairs, I lay on my bed, I died of laughter, because obviously I will be dead when he's 40. And I went back down and said, you better have this room tidy in 2 minutes or you'll be in trouble. So that was the first story. The second story is about, and I was just reminded about the KFC. So KFC was the vice. So there was one particular week, I went to her and she says, oh, I'm so hungry. I said, what do you want to eat? Do you want me to get you something? I have food at house. She's like, no, I want KFC. And I'm like, you're not supposed to have KFC. She said, yeah, I know, but I really feel like KFC. I said, do you want me to go buy you KFC? And she said, yes. So I went down, bought KFC, and I said, if Janice ever finds out that I go buy you KFC, she'll kill me. So anyway, she had the KFC. So a few days later, Alberta, who had been away, came back from wherever she'd been, and apparently, on the way home, bought KFC. So Mrs. Jonge, she and Mrs. Jonge went shopping. They went to the grocery. And on the way back from the supermarket, they bought KFC. So I happened to walk into the house, and I went, and this is like 4 or 5 days later, I went, "Y'all are not eating KFC again." And she says, "Yeah, we were going to come home late, and it was going to be difficult to cook, so yeah, we bought KFC." I was like, oh my goodness. A few days later, I walked in, and Alberta had just come back in from overseas, and on the way from the airport, they bought KFC. So I walked in, and I said, "Boucher." And she says, "Yeah." Alberta says, "Oh yeah," she was just saying, "I bet you Alan's going to walk in and she'll catch us eating KFC." So yes, she did eat a lot of KFC, I confess.
Any other member of the family would like to remember some of good old days? Anybody? Okay. No? Oh, I thought she was coming. All right, well, if there's no one for the time being, let us hear some drumming by... Oh, sure.
I'm not catching a cold, I just have an allergic reaction that I'm forced to hide. No, I'm not a member of the family, but I discovered something that my daughter started to write. My daughter is quite broken, and she thought, maybe I shouldn't let anyone see it, but here it is. So I'll read it. Auntie Martha wasn't like family. She was family. What family is supposed to be. Auntie Martha would know. Auntie Martha would see. Auntie Martha would find. Auntie Martha would give. Auntie Martha would know what to say. She'd know when and how. Auntie Martha would tell us what to do. She was our safe place. She walked through her door, and it was our something about to refuse on the. It was our something on the refuge on the Morne. We were sure we were loved as much as we loved her. While with every Jackie Lawson's card, every right after pausing, what was interest? Oh yes, whenever she said something to Auntie Martha would invariably say, "That's interesting. That's interesting." The fashion show I put on for her on afternoons, because Dara liked clothes and she liked to see Dara model the clothes. She was accommodating. Auntie Martha had patience. Auntie Martha had time to make sure you knew you were loved as much as you loved her. And she writes something like, "What a clumsy something to write." And she said, and she ends with, "Auntie Martha wasn't like family. She was like family. What family is supposed to be." And talking about Auntie Martha being accommodating, I had a problem, crisis, I thought. I had gone away, and I'd left the dates for my son's exams posted, and I told everybody, including the helper. And when I returned, I found that my son had not written the exam on the day he was supposed to write. So I went to Martha's house, and ladies and gentlemen, I bawled, and I rolled on her floor. I rolled, crying, what an awful mother I am, neglecting my child. And she allowed me to roll. And then she said, "Well, you can call the school," which I did. And the head teacher referred me to the teacher in charge of the subject. And he said, "There are different groups. That date you see was not your son's date." And I want to tell her, I always admired her relationship with Arlette. Arlette was a special daughter that God made for her. She would tell me that very often she'd be in her bed, and sometimes she'd just catch a glimpse of Arlette in her room, And Arlette would say, I've fed the dogs, I've maybe washed the dishes, and in addition to that, Arlette would go to the garden and pick whatever was ready for picking, because she herself didn't like gardening. And Arlette was a very special daughter to her, and I just want to share how much I admired Arlette and how good Arlette was to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll have a bit of drumming by Carlton Ishmael.
Sorry.
You forgot something? Oh, you forgot something?
Sorry, yeah, I forgot something. That one is very important to Dara. Dara's photograph, Dara gave Auntie Martha a small photograph of her in her graduation, how did you see it? In her doctoral robe, a small picture. And Auntie Martha had it enlarged and put it on her grandchildren wall. So she wants people to know, I didn't ask Auntie Martha to do it. Auntie Martha encouraged me, she believed in me, she was so proud, she was so very happy. She told me she was happy more than some members of my family have told me, and I know she considers me a granddaughter. That is why I'm on the grandmother's wall.
I was told by the person who invited me here, I will go outside and play a little rhythm for when people come in, so I will create an atmosphere. Now he telling me I should do a song of hearing. Misinformation. But I've always been dabbling with the Creole language and trying to sing because I don't dance anymore. So we will try, we will try a little folk song. I've been writing or putting together but never presented it. Et puis moi t'es tout petit, moi tu joues un bel tipi. Comme un bel ti kawas pour soulager moi, en femme tout c'est fait plaisir. Réalité est belle chose. Chorus, when we do, papa we need, nous c'est même qualité. Papi chive et habillé. Somewhere, pas même payé. Papis uni oticulaire. Somewhere, timiette binoué. Depuis l'année qui t'est passée, moi changé, moi pour causer. Chaque les moi t'es allé côté, au moins quand il est là, moi pour moi aussi la mouche, moi belle ti gibier, bon Dieu me dit. Moi dit tout, pas payé, oui. Papi chive bien habillé, et samoué pas même payé. Papi uni anticoulé, et samoué timiette binoué. Moi dis pas coûter ça, c'est mon dit, c'est moi tout pour décider. Belle n'en paie pas plus l'argent, mais nous n'avons ni plus l'amour. Comme nous pèse à discourager, mais tu me fois la route, tu me dis tout, pas fini, nous c'est même qualité. Papi chive bien habillé, et ça me pas même payé. Papi uni anticoulé, aïe aïe aïe, et ça me timiette plus loin. Merci, merci, merci.
Ok, merci Carl. Massa, tout le garçon, ça l'a très dit à danser. C'était fort même. Vous choisissez nous sommes Guadeloupe ensemble, en Guadeloupe, pays Guadeloupe. Ah ouais, mais bon. C'est ça. Okay, but at present, any more from the family? Anybody forgot something? Maybe something we forget? You want to come and explain? Are you want to? No, not at all. There's no formality there, you know. You don't have to be shy. Okay. Yeah, more time later. Okay, no problem. So let's make way for the Grand Gwek. Anybody have an idea what a Grand Grec is? The Grand Grec is? No? Grand Grec in Creole means somebody powerful. Grand Grec. Grec, yeah. Grand Grec. Peu important ça là? Autant, tu peux important ça? Peu important ça, ok? Tout percé, eh bien. Ok, eh bien, Grand Grec là, donc, c'est Madame Dame Paulette Lucia.
Merci, Hillary. Now, well, I have to admit that everybody who came preceded me said that they were not aware that they were supposed to talk or to say anything. I have to admit that I knew maybe about 3 weeks ago that I was expected to say something and to make a personal tribute. Now, whatever a personal tribute was or is, I wasn't sure. But just to make sure that I said something, that was sort of worthy of the title that I've just been given, the Grand Grec title, and I didn't come and babble, I actually wrote it down. Had an idea of what I wanted to say. But I decided to write it down because, unfortunately, these days, I forget my verbs. Now, just imagine, you're talking, impromptu so, and you forget a verb. I'm getting a little concerned about forgetting verbs. I don't know what that means, but... yeah, so there goes my personal tribute to Mafa. Now, I first met Mafa, it was either in 1958 or 1959. In any case, it was before I came up to Castries to the convent. And I know I came in 1960, but I know I met her before that. When she came down to Lavéyé, to my hometown, Lavéyé, to spend summer vacation with my neighbor, a very close friend, Jennifer Cooper. Jennifer was one of the few Laborians who made it, who was able to come up to Castries to attend St. Joseph's Convent at that time. And she lived with Martha and Martha's mother. So the spending holidays in Lavéyé, became, the exchange. But Jennifer and I we lived close together, just a stone's throw away, on Lacqua Road, which, by the way, is now named the Dame Paulette Lucia Drive, in case anybody...
Now you know what the front is.
Yeah, now, Lavéyé was a close-knit community, so, everybody's friends were everybody. Jennifer and I made our first communion together and everything else until she went up to Castries. So, but I did not know Martha as Martha then. I knew her simply as Fide. And I learned then it was Fide, and I saw it, and it was short for Fidelis. I was really fascinated by that name. There was something kind of otherworldly about it, something ethereal, even spiritual. She was always so composed, so, calm. So I figured out, I wonder where Fide is. Sometimes you looked at her and you wondered where she was, because, she was so calm and composed, and you wondered, I wonder what's going on in her mind. And even then, and she spoke very little, so at least when she was in Lavéyé. So I said, And I said, Fidelis. And the idea of the spirituality of the thing probably was because at that time I was a choir member in in library. And the liturgy, that is before the liturgy was vernacularized, which meant that the liturgy was in Latin. So you have Fidelis, and you associate it with, and these were, to me, enviable traits of fidelity, faith, steadfastness, loyalty. And what's more, as I said, Fide was, quiet, reserved, and even shy. And she was not what I call the in-your-face, stocious type of people. Castries. I was about, that's it. That is before I came to Castries to school. So, I was probably one of the few Castries people, or one of the first Castries people I really got to know. And now my cousin Welita had gone up to the convent before me. So, and when she came back, we were saying, what happened to this girl? Before she left, if she was talking, she came back and she would say, Aaron, don't throw stones so far. So, so I don't know about this Castries thing, but yes, it was, Now we had a ravine by home, and that's where, you go down by the ravine, but Noelita comes back after one term, I knew. Aaron, that's her brother, don't throw stones so far. Oh well. So I concluded then that, Castries people are a bit kind of stocious. And because Martha was not the stocious, in-your-face kind of person, I liked her. She didn't speak much, but I liked her. There was something about her that I liked. But the holidays came and went, and the connection, sort of broke a bit until I came up to Castries the year after, and visited her home in George Charles Boulevard, every now and then. But it had to be every now and then, because then we lived in Trinity Church Road, and she lived the other side of town. And my aunt would wonder what Kisomete George Charles Boulevard after school. So you came from the convent down to Trinity Church Road, you came from the convent at the other side to George Charles Boulevard. But when I came to the convent and met those stocious people, our paths did not cross as readily or as easily as I would have thought. After all, you are a first former, and you have no business talking to older girls, senior girls. So Martha was, senior class, so that was it. And in any case, we were from down the coast. This down the coast people, Down the coast people, you don't hobnob with, Castries people. You just knew your place. I don't think Mafa would have minded if I had tried, a little harder. She would not have minded. But, we did get to meet a little later in our adult life. My study of Latin and French at the convent confirmed the traits I had associated with Martha. When I learned the etymology and the meaning of the name, of the word Fidelis. In French, it is fidelity. In Latin, fidelitas. In English, fidelity. And it is described in the Oxford Dictionary as continuing loyalty to a person, to a cause, or belief. The degree of exactness with which something is copied or reproduced. And faithfulness. Now, from a lot of what I've heard before I came up there, Martha epitomized that. The degree of exactness with which she did things. The continuing loyalty to a cause, to a belief, to a person. And so, you know, if it is her godmother who gave her the name Fidelis, that godmother was probably a bit psychic, you know. She knew that's what, you know, her godchild would turn out to be. Over the years, our lives and our fortunes passed each other like ships in the night. We both studied at UWI Cave, but not at the same time. She was a member of staff at the South Louis Community College while I was away in the UK. And when I returned from the UK, she left for Madison. So it was, you know, like, as I said, ships in the night. We saw each other, blinked our fog lights or whatever, and moved on. I always saw her, though, as I said, being reserved, one who made no big fuss about anything, one who dedicated herself to the task at hand, whatever that task happened to be. And she did not interfere too much in other people's lives, not even that of her children. She told me she wanted to dance. You know. But that wasn't Martha at all. And you would agree with me that I'm sure Martha is happy that she didn't blow a gasket and that she allowed Tanya to do what you needed to do with her life. For Janice followed me in the language thing, Janice. Janice became a boss translator. You say when they say the student gets much better than the teacher, well, that's it. Don't ask me. If I have to translate these days, I have to get my French dictionary, you know. So Martha did very well by both of you. Now, Martha had a keen sense of humor, though. You saw her sitting down, you know, but when she did speak sometimes, with the strictest face, deadpan, but sometimes blistering. That was Martha. The two of us had a few things in common. Now, in spite of what people may think, and in spite of my moving around there this afternoon, I'm a very private person. You wouldn't believe that, would you? But so was Martha. So was Mafa. We sit, we watch, and more often than not, we keep our thoughts and our views to ourselves. Then there is our professional and academic interest in the study of language. My master's degree was in didactics, which is the study of foreign language teaching behavior, or what they call interaction analysis. And that's so long ago, 1975. And if you ask me today what interaction analysis is, I'll have to go and look for a copy of the thesis to tell you. But there it was. Yeah. And the university gave me the degree anyway, so. But Martha's was in the field of social linguistics. And both of us had an interest in vernacular literacy, in language policy, in our Creole language in particular. So, in all her professional interests, she has been, as her name implies, steadfast, faithful, uncompromising, solid. She will be missed, and she will be missed sorely. That's it, ladies.
You know, I can recall when they used to have, a few years ago, the fluent speech at the House of Assembly. I used to look forward to hearing this Greg in the Creole. It was an inspiration to hear serious language. The language that some people say, oh, in you. That was the person who actually gave me that, you know, feeling to continue to speak the Creole properly and grammatically. Okay? Bon, avant nous, Marilyn, Il n'a pas qui était très populaire tout partout à présent. Trop populaire. Tout le monde n'est jique femme qui n'est. Qui ça y est? Un bagage populaire. Tout le monde a dingue. Jique femme qui a dingue. Hein? Hein? N'a eu de raison. Jique femme qui a dingue. Get shop. Chic femme qui a dingue. Mais longtemps, là où est monté une tête shop, il doit créer ça, Brina. No, the real name of the thing is Brina. You remember Yul Brynner in the movie, all right, the Ten Commandments. But everybody's on take that and call it Brina. Well, you understand? I suppose you understand. You should not to learn. There was a Calypsonian, the Lord Briner. By the time, not Calypsonian, the Lord Briner. Of course, yes, Trinidad. Of course, Bob Marley called them crazy bald heads. Okay? Mais à tout ça là, mon te ka seiwe tête yo surtout dans Briner. Mon que ta garçon te ka bien en Lambert, il tenait en Briner. Avec chapeau, il quand en Lambert, avec les ka vie sorti quand tu en chapeau pour mon pas ouais tête li. Ok. Et bien, il y a un bouc qui est mort. Et qui était dans Brian en tête shop. Là, il monté, c'est peut-être dit, sacré comparaison. Vieux descendre et vieux monter par tête. Et bien, une fois, mon grand garçon qui était dans, grand homme qui était dans Brian, moi, dit bonjour, il fait moins ça. Moi, je me dis bonjour encore. Vous savez pour ça? Vous ne comprenez pas ça? Moi, je dis là, bonjour, il m'a fait pour ça, vous ne comprenez pas? Il dit, moi, beau. Après, je comprends. Ok. Eh bien, on peut dire, ce n'est ça. N'a pas danser pour mon tête shop seulement. Tête shop seulement. Dance for men, only people with bald heads. Mais il ne peut pas mettre en boucle ça ouais clair. Parce que nous sommes tellement habitués avec ça. Là, où en Brian, ou pas, mais on va trouver. Il n'a pas un Brian. Là, il met un bouga avec en la porte là. Chaque là, on a tué, vous avez mis un tête tout. Cadeau, on a tué. Next one, met un tête li, on a tué. Même les en rasta qui a passé, il veut ça qui a passé là. Il dit, on a tué là. Il fait un mois, il biscuit l'autre li, et puis il vient en reverse. Garçon mais et qui dit you want to. Quand il finit de tuer avec la criée mettre dans ses il dit est-ce qu'on souhaite quand il fait là ici là parce que non commence à tuer par deux. You understand? Okay, Marilyn, ou parler? All right.
Bon après-midi tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. I got to know Martha in 1983 when I started working at the Folk Research Center as a librarian and documentalist. And Papa was parish priest just at the presbytery. And Martha was principal of the Ave Maria School, so she used to come around to the FRC very often to do research, to ask for Papa and things. So that is how I got to know Martha. Then I met her again in 1988 when she did the Cursillo. She did the Cursillo. The Cursillo is a short course in Christianity where we meet together for a weekend of 4 days where we do studies on scripture and various aspects of Christianity. And from that time, we became friends. And we started meeting in small groups, which we call group reunion. She used to meet with myself, Marlene Anthony, who has passed, Jane Bourne, who has passed as well. And we started meeting. And so we became friends, talking to each other, always calling each other. And She started coming to Mass at Grosile every Thursday, to the midday Mass. And we would meet and talk sometimes. And there was this particular Thursday, I didn't see her. So I called. And I told her, well, we miss you, I didn't see you. And she told me, girl, I'm at the hospital. So she said, well, your niece is there taking care of me. But things are okay. The following day I called her again and she told me, Janice is here. I said, wow, something must be serious. And so on. But Martha was a force to reckon with, deeply spiritual, searching, really, really searching. And she was a woman that I loved. When Martha gives you a hug, you get a hug. Okay. So, on behalf of FRC, we would like to thank her for all what she has done for us, for the language, for St. Lucia. So we have a little tribute there, Memoete en Creole. In Creole. Okay, so this is a tribute to Dr. Martha Fidelis Isaac. Monseigneur Patrick Anthony Place Wishes Folklore, FRC, a accordé Dr. Martha Isaac Westpay. Dr. Isaac, c'était une membre organisation FRC en temps passé, et puis aussi c'était une force derrière langue créole. Nous avons fait ça aujourd'hui pour honorer contribution à ligne d'indication à ce langage là, et littérature en particulier. Et aussi un travail pour pousser et développer la langue créole en Sainte-Lucie. Dr. Isaac est passé le 20 décembre 2025 à l'âge de 69 l'année. Il quittait des défis et puis famille et plusieurs autres membres famille, camarades et l'autre monde qui travaille et puis en Sainte-Lucie et puis en Caraïbes là. Place Wishes Folklore doué Dr. Isaac une godette pour contribution il fait pour lever connaissance d'importance langue créole en parmi indicateurs teacher et moun qui spécialisé pour instruire en différentes langues. Fondation Relation Dr. Isaac et puis Place Wishes Folklore. C'était à sous recherche langue créole entre académique et commune qui mouvement créole Sainte-Lucie Mont créole TKJD. Dr. Isaac trouvait entraînement comme un teacher en Teachers College. Tout de suite après ça, il allait étudier littérature, langage et linguistique à l'Université West Indies là, en Barbade. Pour MPhil, ça veut dire go papier étude, il fait recherche à sous equity langue créole, ça nous a couillé en anglais, Creole orthography. Depuis après ça, un chaque monde, comme étudiant, académique et indicateur qui a fait travail à sous langue créole, te ka consulter à sous travail. Travail académique et écriture créative. Aussi contribution en discours, en discussion publique à sous développement langue créole. Indication et disposition pour continuer à apprendre et indiquer quoi. Toutes ces bagailles ça là, t'es trouvé formé par manière y comprendre et servir situation qu'il en travail. Et qualité travail ça là, c'est plus gros objectif programme langue créole Place Wishes Folklore. Dr. Isaac c'était un indicateur et un teacher pour toute la vie. Il instruit maman en plusieurs écoles. À l'école Tifi Ave Maria, côté il était premier maîtresse de l'école qui partait une dame religieuse. à l'école secondaire Castries Comprehensive, un collège teacher au Morne et un collège Sir Arthur Lewis. Après ça, il travaille comme chef de curriculum and Material Development Unit, un ministre d'éducation, ça nous croit en anglais comme doux. Mais ça n'a pas été dit pour longtemps. Il a aussi instruit Mamai à l'université à West Indies, à Barbade. La mort docteur Isaac a présenté un gros pédant pour peuple Saint-Lucie et place recherche folklore. Quand nous continuons à travailler pour lever la langue créole comme une langue officielle en pays Saint-Lucie. Comme ça c'est un espoir, place recherche folklore, qui travaille Dr. Isaac en ligne d'indication en langue là, en recherche en linguistique, et preuve là, il a poursuivi en recherche à sous significance langue créole là, qui joigne reconnaissance et acceptance. Nous voulons honorer et célébrer Dr. Isaac pour tout travail là, et support Jabanou Diwan était vivant. Nous voulons remercier famille et camarades. Nous commandons bon Dieu pour voir bénédiction à Souyo, toutes et bayo support et consolation Diwan ces temps tristesse là. Merci Achai.
Merci Marilyn. Marilyn, on a fait une recommandation pour ça, une gouverneur général. Pour aller aussi être libre et ça là, pour le monde comprendre ça, c'est langue qui doux. Vous savez, un garçon qui a l'audience, et il y a des garçons, comment non? Il dit, on éclairisse. Il dit, comment on a remarqué ça? Il dit, ah, ça n'a pas marché. C'est le langue ça. Mais ça va avouer. Ou ça ne marche n'importe quoi vous faire en créole. Thank you once again, Marilyn. Okay, the next is Dr. Isaac, the scholar. Anybody who has to? Oh, you have it on. Okay, on film. So let's take a look at the video. Oh. No, all it says is Dr. Isaac, the scholar. Below. Okay. Oh, by Dr. Sorry, my apologies. By Dr. Ronald Francis, UWI Cavill. No. Moi, des questions l'autre monsieur qui a venu ici à 10 encore.
It is a distinct pleasure to say a few words about Dr. Mafa Isaac. Although I only met her once, I communed with her ideas and her work for years. Among her many qualifications was an MPhil in Linguistics from the University of the West Indies entitled French Creole Interference in the Written English of St. Lucian Secondary School Students. Her study examined the cross-linguistic influence of French Creole on the production of English writing among Creole-dominant students. This research had major implications for language teaching in St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean. Completed in 1986, her work served as a foundation upon which many other scholars built. I found her research to be so comprehensive and so robust that I spent many hours studying it. It had a profound influence on my own scholarship. In fact, hers was one of the most cited pieces of research in my own doctoral study. She went on to produce equally robust work for her doctoral dissertation at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, a sociolinguistic investigation of the teaching of language arts in St. Lucian elementary schools. After years of engaging with her work, it was a delight to finally meet her after midnight mass in Kubaril I discovered then that she was as kind, gentle, and warm as she was intellectually formidable. Long before I became a staff member at the Department of Language, Linguistics, and Literature here at the UWI Caville campus, Dr. Isaac worked here and remains fondly remembered. She was a lecturer in linguistics, specializing primarily in sociolinguistics, and served as the coordinator of the linguistics discipline. By all accounts, she was a credit to the discipline, to our country, and to the Catholic faith. Two of my colleagues who worked alongside her reported that she was, quote, fair and stood up for justice, that she worked well with other colleagues, and it was noted that she was a devout Catholic. Dr. Isaac was also an active member of the Society for Caribbean Linguistics and is fondly remembered by many of her colleagues in the discipline throughout the region. Her scholarship always carried practical implications, usually focusing on language pedagogy. Because of her standing in the field, she was invited to deliver the 7th annual Richard Alsop Memorial Lecture on March 10, 2022, via Zoom. Her address was entitled Reflections on the Pedagogy and Philosophy of Richard Alsop, Implications for Linguistic Aspects of a Caribbean Pedagogy. While teaching at this university, she was constantly engaged in meaningful research. One of our annual reports highlighted her work on narratives of outstanding leaders in St. Lucian education and effective teachers of early literacy. These endeavors perfectly illustrate her devotion to language education and her general character. She was someone who sought to uplift not only her students, but her fellow educators as well. Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." My enduring memory of Mafa Isaac, and I believe that of many others as well, is that she was as brilliant a person as she was a scholar. So may her mighty brain and her mighty heart rest in perfect peace.
Yeah, very well said. And now we can ask Kendall Hippolyte to come in to read some excerpts from Roddy Walcott.
Totally. Blessed. The title of the title on the thing, excerpts from Roddy Walcott, is kind of misleading. I had more notice, not as much as Paulette, but I had more notice than most of the persons who came over to speak. I had a few days' notice, and a few because I think somehow Papa had the idea that I was acquainted in some kind of way with research that that Martha had done on Roddy Walcott at Caville as an undergraduate. Yeah, I was acquainted with it. I can't remember how, but I have the actual undergrad paper that she did on Roderick Walcott. It doesn't, I can't remember how I got it. I was doing an MPhil on playwriting in St. Lucia, like, 1997, between 1997 and 1999, and I interviewed a number of persons. Most likely I interviewed Iram, her husband, most likely. But somehow she got to know that I was doing this thing and, got it to me. I've had it for quite a while. The front page is missing, so I don't know the title of it. Oh. I left, yours looks as old as mine. No, mine looks older. The development of theater in the Eastern Caribbean with special reference to St. Lucia. Damn, the drama of Roderick Walcott. Okay, glad to know the title, thank you. Anyway, so it's been quite a while since I had read this thing, quite a while back. I remember really liking it at the time. But it's, I say it had been a while since I'd done it. But I said, okay, I'll refamiliarize myself with it and come and say something. So that was my plan a few days ago. I did nothing. for quite a few days. And then up to yesterday, up to last night, I still hadn't reread it. And I said, damn, this can't go on. So I went to sleep sometime like after 10, 11. Woke up, I checked my phone when I woke up. It was 2:47. So I said, okay, I got to read this thing. It's like 44 pages and fairly dense. So between 2:47 and about a little after 7 o'clock this morning, I reread the entire 44 pages, making notes as I went along, And at first, I was reading with the kind of mindset of, I got to figure out what it is I'm going to say within 10, 12 minutes. But after a while, I completely forgot that I was doing this to come and present here. I just got pulled back into it all over again. I think I had forgotten what I had, largely forgotten what I had seen in it the first time. But there's so much. There's so much, Martha wore her learning lightly. Really, really lightly. You wouldn't have known. Ronald's presentation was Martha the Scholar. I didn't know Martha the Scholar. I had a vague idea she was involved in linguistics, etc. I knew she was in education. I didn't know Martha the Scholar until between 2:47 and 7 o'clock. It's a lot of work. So I'm not going to go into I'm not going to go into the substance of the thing. It's just it's a lot. I'll just say some things very, very briefly, or very, very roughly what it covers. First of all, she located Roderick's work in the context of a whole movement in decolonization that was happening right around the Caribbean and other places from 1950s onwards. In fact, even before that, but it really hit the Anglophone Caribbean like in the 1950s. Novelists like George Lamming, writers like C.L.R. James and so on were creating a whole atmosphere of resistance to European English norms, etc., etc., etc. And there was a re-questioning. There was a questioning and a re-evaluation of all the colonial superstructure of what constituted good culture, good art, that kind of thing. There's a resistance that was going on. It took different forms. Here in St. Lucia, one of the forms it took, and in other places as well, was a valorization, a revaluing, a valorization of the folk culture. Harold Simmons had been, instrumental in helping that to happen. Mentoring Roderick Walcott and Derek Walcott and Dunstone and so on and so on. And Roddy wasn't directly his pupil, but Roddy felt that influence coming through, and Derek was his brother and all that. So that was part of the resistance that was going on. And if you're standing up for the folk and you're a writer, sooner or later it finds its way into your writing. And Roddy found himself in a position. That's one of the things that came through in Martha's in Martha's thesis. And let me say something very, very quickly. A fair amount of the information that she has here, you can find it in bits and pieces here and there. If you dig around, you can find bits and pieces, not all of it. But it is wonderful to be able to have so much that is drawn together in one set of pages. It's a treasure trove. So I say Roddy was he got drawn into this. The Arts Guild started in 1950, and Roderick very, very quickly found himself afterwards having to lead the Arts Guild because Derek went away not too long after it formed, and Roderick went from being the stage manager. Somehow I hadn't known this. I've done an MPhil on St. Lucian playwriting. Somehow I hadn't known that he was officially a stage manager in the Guild. I always thought of him as just kind of like, alongside his brother, not exactly equal, but he was the stage manager. So there's a whole, let me say, being a stage manager is the administration thing is like running a country, So he went from being a stage manager to becoming the artistic director of the Guild. And while he was not at first a playwright, he very soon found himself taking up the role of playwright within the Guild as well, you know. And one of the things Martha does really, really marvelously is to show how the Guild went from the progress of its work from, first of all, a group that put on mainly European work, although, you know, I suppose inflected within his acting and so on, inflected by St. Lucian rhythm, and, you know, because, you know, we have to do it our kind of way, how it went from being that into doing work that was, sometimes what they do would be to take actual, say, like an English play, and to, okay, so for example, there was a musical, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there was a musical that they created music for, and that they did in their own way, in their own style. So it went from just putting on the original work just as is, and it went from that into adapting the work into more St. Lucian or Caribbean style. And then it went beyond that now, eventually, into producing work written by St. Lucians or other Caribbean people. The theater scholar and playwright, Errol Hill, was, you know, was the extramural resident tutor, I think, at the time, going up and down the Caribbean in the 1950s, and made a number of visits to all the various Caribbean places, and he was really, really gung-ho about getting a Caribbean theater going, you know. And Roderick, like a number of other persons, was really infected with this idea of creating what they would have called at the time a West Indian style of theater, West Indian in theme, West Indian in form. And that became the mission of Roderick Walcott and the Arts Guild. And when I think back, that always kind of gets to me, you know, it knocks me out. When I think back to the ambition that those persons had in, you're looking to create a style of theater, a way of writing, a way of performing that has not been seen before. And from the start, I mean, Roderick is very, very clear in his head that he's writing, it's very, very St. Lucian material. I mean, nobody wrote more St. Lucian plays than Roddy. It's very, very St. Lucian material. But he's clear from the start that he's writing for not only a St. Lucian audience, but a Caribbean audience, and beyond the Caribbean audience, a worldwide audience. He believed in, as Derek did, that the value of what they were doing was such that it was, you know, it was of world stature. That's what you're aiming for. That's the standard you're aiming for, you know. So and he kept that going for a couple of decades. You know, from 1950, he left there in 1968, went abroad to study, would send his plays down to be worked on by people. The Guild still was able to put on something for a while, but eventually it fell apart. But the point is that, I don't know, that level of ambition, and some of what's being said about Martha is true of Roddy as well, that he was quite an unassuming person. You wouldn't have known the amount of just straight knowledge, just familiarity with world currents in theater and so on that he had. I don't know where he got the blasted books from to read and understand it and to make choices about what to put on and so on. Because I say he was really, really quite unassuming, you know. Martha doesn't go into depth about his personality. She just focuses on the work, what he was able to achieve, what the Guild was able to achieve, you know. And some salient points that come out from the thesis. Let me I better double check what I saw as the salient points. Yeah. Yeah, one of the salient points that came out for me is this: how little, in some ways, the situation has changed between when Roddy was trying to create theater in St. Lucia and now. The challenges are really very, very similar. Some things just have not changed. I'm not even going to go into that. You know, I mean, I don't want to spoil the vibe. But that's one of the things that came through in there because Martha was able to pick up, without dwelling on it, you know, was able to pick up the challenges that Roderick faced. The work when they began doing St. Lucian and Caribbean stuff, the work faced almost like a bipolar reaction in the society. Because you're dealing with a society that culturally had the kind of, nominally, normatively, if you like, the European, Anglo-Saxon, etc., norms of what constitutes good art, you know. Yes, you're dealing with that at one end, and then at the other end, you have the folk culture, you know. You have the folk culture. And those two things, the attitudes, you get a range of attitudes on all sides about it. And Roddy's ambition was to create a theater in which those two things would be blended, you know, in which neither one had necessarily more priority or validity there, but that would be blended in a way that you'd make a work of art, you'd make works of art, in which they all could find a place and create something new, you know. And his work, his work met with, it's weird. His work met with very, among one sector of persons, very enthusiastic responses that people are seeing themselves now on the stage and validated and so on. And on the other hand, it met with the opposite reaction that kind of thing, those kind of people, that kind of culture, those kind of words, you know, that has no place on the stage, you know. So from early, there was a dichotomy coming at him, and he knew that's what he was going to have to deal with. But he kept on. He kept on dealing with that. The folk tradition remained the central part of his work, right up to the last play he ever wrote, you know, much later. The thesis really covers maybe just about a little over a third of his playwriting life, because he continued writing beyond that, occasionally coming down and putting on work. But so that was one thing. The difficulty, the challenges in creating that kind of work. The other thing, though, on an not exactly opposite, but what it takes my mind to is, it makes me wonder what for theater artists here in St. Lucia, I can speak of St. Lucia right now, but it applies to the wider Caribbean. What do we see as the mission and the challenge for what we are doing? Roderick had, as a number of them did, a very, very clear idea of exactly what he wanted to achieve, and he went after it, you know, in spite of all the difficulties, in spite of all the challenges, etc., etc. And it made me wonder, I wonder about this often. What do we involved in theater in St. Lucia, what do we see as our mission? What is our vision? What are we after? And I wish we had the clarity, the absolute clarity, and the zeal that comes with that clarity that Roderick Walcott had. I really, really, absolutely wish that we did. You know, as I say, I'm glad that Martha was able to bring together something of the personality of the man, but also give some idea of the size of what it is he took on and achieved in this time. So I say thank you to you, Martha. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Crandall. The next presenter will be Paba, but before he comes, think about décorruption. Au ça qui te issue la caille belle-mère, mais pas qui te maro ou la caille compère. Vous comprenez ça? Au ça qui te issue la caille belle-mère, ou belle-mère, madame qui te issue la caille, ou elle fait ça fort. Mais pas qui te maro. Ok. Ou pas qui te madame, la caille.
Okay, we are getting different views of Martha from different positions, and so we have heard her work in language, and we've seen her immersion in theater, and I want to touch a bit on Martha, her writing, especially her spiritual writing, and in particular, one little work which she did called Citadel, in which she was really sharing with those who would eventually read it, her own journey of pain and loss after the passing of Hiram. So she asked me to do forward to Citadel. That was in 2007. And I came across it again, so I decided I'll use that to read, basically to read what I wrote at the time. So, forward to Citadel. In a poem dedicated to the memory of a departed friend, St. Lucian poet Jane King Hippolyte wrote, "When Fergus was dying, I had this fantasy that when some people died, they ought to leave spaces like holes in the air where they used to be." Martha's Citadel is a description of her excruciating pain at stumbling into those spaces left by the death of her husband Hiram 15 years ago. "I keep expecting the door to open in order to hear him enter the room," she writes. And again, "It is 15 years later, and I still want to see him walk through the door." Citadel is an odyssey of loss and separation, replete with classical stages of grieving: anger, loneliness, doubt, despair, hope, faith, acceptance, and serenity. In a touching gesture of generosity, Mafa shares candidly with us her soul's struggle with meaning and healing after personal tragedy. This lament of the heart is a gift to strengthen those who will pass one day this road most traveled by. For it is those who have loved most tenderly who are crushed by the passing of the beloved. Love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation. Citadel is patterned on the structure of a spiritual exercise, reminiscent of the Ignatian exercises or 30-day silent retreat. Martha's long spiritual struggle with loss is compressed into 31-day journey seeking comfort, compassion, wisdom, and learning to face reality in the end in order to move on when grace arrives. For each day there is a word from Scripture, a lament, a reflection, and a prayer. This structure makes the work not only inspirational but devotional. In this little book, Mafa plumbed the depth of grief with extraordinary sensitivity. Like the author of the Book of Lamentation, she helps us understand something of the profound silent presence of God in the midst of adversity. God is ever present, but in a silence which seems to echo, which seems to ponder the echo of its pulse. What an intense absence. And yet, even this absence is a pregnant emptiness which says everything about the dark night of the soul. When we burst forth in an ecstatic daybreak of joy and gratitude, then with Mafa we can sing, as the flowers blossom on the orange tree, so blessings flow into my life. Citadel is a beautiful tribute to spousal love and a moving testimony to the healing power of divine grace. This I wrote, Citadel, and I don't know if copies are still available. Oh, there's one copy here, right? It's still online, yeah. But I would really recommend that those of you who never read it to read it. And not only read it, but like there's some things you swallow like Gog, and other things you savor, sweet like good wine, or brandy, or liqueur. So I suggest that you gustate et viderte, taste and see the goodness of Martha. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Baba. Bon, on met maintenant l'autre grand grec. Il est déjà ici, il est vivant encore. On a parlé de Mafa modeste. Aux gens grecs.
I was recovering from one of the episodes of the allergic reaction. I'd taken an antihistamine the night before. I was due to take one following day, and when I was about to, Martha called me and said she didn't think she could drive to the hospital. She asked me to the doctor, to keep her appointment. I said yes. My friend first before this, because I'd had one before, and all the rest followed. Now, I see I'm supposed to speak on priceless treasure, but it's as though people are not aware that we have a second book. Second book is Sacramentals, holy things. I'll just tell you about it briefly. Holy things, holy actions, holy places. And in that book, we speak about the holy things, cross, crucifix, medals, pendants, what they're about, holy actions, the things we do, like the sign of the cross, genuflecting, etc., and holy places, tabernacle, places we go on, shrines, and the like. So we explain why those things are significant in our faith. So, if you want answers, Father Anthony, could you tell us what's the meaning of ISJ on the you know now? It's not a J, it's an I, I'm told. ISJ? Aaron asked me and I couldn't answer. Okay. So, priceless treasure is about the Eucharist, which is the food for the soul that Christ left us. We wrote a story, showed it to the Archbishop. He didn't say he was disappointed, but he sounded disappointed. He said, but this is a story. So I thought he thought we should have written some kind of instruction instead of a story. But in that story, we explain how there was a family. Family went through hard times, good times, bad times. The bad time is when the father lost his job. So the children had to go to the country to live with grandma. Grandma lived on the farm apparently. She had mangoes, fat pork, and things that made them happy. They stayed and prayed. Father went to town, get a job. He got a job. And now I prepared that, but I can't find the chapter where I wrote, where we wrote about children eating green fig and saltfish. That was a meal that they smelled before they saw it, and they were happy. But this is what priceless treasure is about. Now, while we wrote, we thought that we should explain certain words. Instead of foregoing the words, we thought we should place the words in the story and have a glossary at the back. And having written the glossary, we thought we should have a question and answer section. So that is what. We have an activity section. For example, in chapter 7, we have here, imagine you are talking to a group of non-Catholics. Explain fully to them what happens at consecration. In the story, you read that Samuel did not understand the mystery of Holy Communion. Do you know what the word mystery means? Find out other mysteries in Catholic teaching. In other words, it's a book to inspire students to learn more about the Catholic Church. This is what Priceless Treasure is about. The title Priceless Treasure is that to Catholics, the Eucharist is a priceless treasure. I thank you.
Okay, that reminds me of a little story where a lady went to church, went to service. Those days, you leave your home very, very early in the morning to get to 5 o'clock mass. The lady leaves the home at 4 o'clock in the morning and end up at the mass, and she's way up front. And during the Eucharist, everything goes on well, and the lady remained there. It is Selbaga say, "Pode sala, you ho aswe? Garçon, bois divin. Les finissent pour la sec. Il pas offert un morceau. Même si moi dis non merci." That is how some people felt, But we continue, and we'll have a little interlude, musical interlude, tribute by the Ave Maria teachers. Are they available? Yeah, they are. Very well.
Good evening, everyone. I was debating whether I should sing or not. And one of my colleagues said that she could use a little rain. So that is my inspiration. So I'm going to sing. I want to warn you that I'm not a singer. Oh, plewe moi. Oh, pote de moi. La moelle pewe. L'esprit déchaîné. Même continuer, zèle suspend au ciel, la moelle libérée, l'esprit déchaîné. I just wanted to sing a chorus because I know that Martha knew that I was not a singer. I had a little stint in bel canto some years ago, but I'm not a singer. That's not my forte. So today I want to do 2 poems in tribute to Martha. The first, I understand, comes from Antonio Machado, who is a Latin American poet. And from that poem, her inspiration comes. This is where her favorite lines are. So bear with me. I'm not a Spanish speaker. Caminante, son tus huellas el camino y nada más. Caminante, no hay camino. Se hace camino al andar. Al andar se hace camino. Y al volver la vista atrás, se ve la senda que nunca se ha de volver a pisar. Caminante, no hay camino, sino estelas en la mar. Traveler, the footprints are the path and nothing more. Traveler, there is no path. You make the path by walking. By walking, you make the path. And when you look back, you see the path you'll never tread again. Traveler, there is no path, only wakes in the sea. Machado's poem is a profound explanation of the existential, a powerful meditation on the human condition. It is an invitation to reflect on one's personal journey, one's pathway through life. He contends that the path isn't predetermined. Instead, it is created by one's own actions, by one's own choices, emphasizing human freedom and responsibility. Like a ship's wake, our presence in this world is temporary. The sea, always moving in its ebbs and flows, symbolizes the constant flux and change in life. Today, I want to simply share someone who led with a profound sense of humility, who understood that true leadership isn't about dictating the path, but by lighting the way. In the last few days, my former colleagues and I have shared powerful testimonials revealing numerous ways in which we, those who were entrusted to her care, became. We were free to boldly walk down our own paths. For many of us, it was our first assertion of cultural identity. I just want to pause here to say, Martha allowed me to explore. I think my love for the arts was nurtured well at Ave Maria Primary. I was responsible for putting on productions with Geraldine Montoute, Rosalind Klein, a number of other able teachers. So every year we had a production, and that was ably supported by Martha Isaac. Martha Fidelis Isaac, didn't impose her vision on us. Rather, she created a space for exploration, for stumbling, for groping in the dark, for questioning, for finding our own way. She offered the illumination of guidance, not direction, support, not solutions. You have to figure it out yourself. Her philosophy was simple. You make the path by walking. She believed in us, even when we did not believe in ourselves. She showed us that leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting others to find them. Martha's light wasn't blinding either. It was illuminating. It was transforming. It lit up possibilities, not prescriptions. In the shadow of uncertainty, Martha stood as a beacon, not a map, but a light illuminating the terrain, trusting the teacher travelers, trusting that the path would reveal itself in time. Her leadership was a silent nod, a furtive glance over her spectacles, whispered encouragement, steady presence, a calming touch, and of course, a warm smile. In her light, we found courage. We forged our own unique trails, uncharted and unmarked, and in the forging, we discovered ourselves. Martha, Fidelis, Isaac, we owe you a huge debt of gratitude for the gift of autonomy, for the trust, for the light, for allowing us to find our voice. On behalf of all your old staffers, I dare say, a heartfelt thank you. We offer our sincere condolences to Tanya and Janice and the extended family. May she rest in peace. I did say I was doing 2 poems. So the next one is in dedication. It is by Lorna Goodison, one of my favorite poems. I shall light a candle of understanding in thine heart. I shall light a candle of understanding in thy heart, which shall not be put out. I shall light. First, debts to pay and fences to mend. Lay to rest the wounded past, foes disguised as friends. I shall light a candle of understanding in thine heart. Tease the training of impossible hedges round this life, for as fast as you sow them, serendipitous thicket would appear and outgrow them. I shall light a candle of understanding in thy heart. All things in their place, then in this many-chambered heart, for each thing a place and a hymn placed apart. I shall light a candle of understanding in thy heart, which shall never be put out. By the hand that lit the candle, by the never to be extinguished flame, by the candle wax which windward drips, the candle wings luminous and rare, by the illumination of the candle, exit fear and doubt. Here, love and the possibility is a lit heart shining out. La vie qu'a continué, l'amour pas qu'à gagner.
Okay, and now we're having a musical interlude, and the operator.
te compte là, bah moi. Portier homme blanc, portier café, quitte l'histoire dit. Tim Tim, Washers, Francisman, Coco, Tim Tim, Washers, Got Boots, Second, Tim Tim, Washers. Qui sa bon Dieu mettait sous la terre, qui sa bon Dieu tirait sous la terre. Toute chose qui l'histoire dit. La vie va finir. La vie va continuer, l'amour va gagner. La vie mortelle, la moins libérée, l'esprit déchaîné. Pas pleurer, pas moi, pas porter témoin, la moins libérée, l'esprit déchaîné. La moins libérée, l'esprit déchaîné.
But we men. Okay, I suspect that interlude was quite quick. I tried to run outside, by the time I was back, it's finished. So right now we'll have open mic. Anybody wants to say something, some tribute to Mafa? Okay, here, someone comes up right away.
It's too high for me, yeah? I don't know how to move it down. From here? I shot.
Okay, good.
I realized that before I met Martha, really met Martha, I knew of her. I'm supposed to have known her, known that she was teaching at the Ave Maria School when I was a student there. So it's my classmate in Ave Maria School who told me that, yes, you remember, but she was a teacher in Ave Maria School. There were 2 standard 4s, and we were in the standard 4 scholarship class, And then there was the other standard 4, and Mrs. Isaac had the other standard 4. They were just on the other side of us. I was totally oblivious. I did not know Mrs. Isaac, although I knew other teachers who taught in the Ave Maria School at the time. But I kind of figure, when I look at myself as a child, I think I was always in my own little world. You know, I always felt like there's somebody watching above, watching me, and I'm in my little world all by myself. So a lot of things that I should have seen or been observant of, I wasn't. So a lot of things just escaped me. But there are some things I really do remember. Like I remember Mrs. Morris. Augusta Morris was my TABC. You were Miss Motley at that time. That's right, Mrs. Motley. Taught me to write my name. And she reminds everybody of that. So that's one of the most vivid memories of Ave Maria School. So, yesterday, during the service, the church service for Martha, I was taken aback with all the, every song that played reminded me of Martha. They were all songs I loved, and I suppose they were her favorite songs too. And it was raining in my heart. And I couldn't hold back. I suppose that's how I am. I'm always psychosomatic, you know, so I felt deeply. This is the second time this has happened to me. I was just like uncontrollably, you know, raining inside of me. And having reread or rereading Martha's Citadel, reclaiming her citadel, I had read it at the time when she launched it, and that was a long time ago, since 2007 or 8. And I read it and I liked it, but at the time I didn't have these emotions and things that she went through, so I read it kind of superficially and put it down. But trying to cope with her loss, I went and reread it, and rereading that Citadel, coming to terms with her loss. That gave me such a deeper understanding of Martha, who Martha was, the person she was. Martha was genuine, the genuine article. She had a good sense of humor. I think many of you have referred to that sense of humor, which I saw as well. Every time the way she related all the antics of her young grandchildren, especially David, had me in stitches all the time. You know, I love that about her. She could be serious, and she'd say it with a straight face, as you said, and that made it all the more funny. And her sarcasm, speaking about different situations. We agreed on a lot of things, and we had a lot of long conversations, including education matters, linguistic issues. Now, where linguistic issues are concerned, I discovered that Martha did her thesis on the written aspect of the Creole influences in the children's writing. And I did my thesis on the same thing, but on the speech, the oral English of St. Lucia's, the Creole influences on the oral English. So then I learned that afterwards. And it is just uncanny. I met her on campus in Barbados, Keyville. And I think I was doing my second or third year and working on that thesis. And Martha was on campus doing her master's, I think. All right? And that's when I got to know her as another St. Lucian on campus and everything. I never knew that she taught at Ave Maria School. And we became friends then, and off and on, I'd meet Mafa and talk. And then I left, and I think the time when she was going through her loss was the time I think I was in Martinique. The 6 years I spent in Martinique, we were not in contact at all. So we spoke about a lot of things, and especially the Creole issues, and many times I came to talk to Martha about what I was going through with the Creole and the Creole committee and bringing Creole to the schools and teaching Creole, and she listened. And the humble and simple person that she was, she didn't talk much about herself. That's how I knew very little about Martha's background, her family, and all that, except her immediate family. And she didn't talk about her experiences either, you know. So she would much rather sit back. So she would sit back and listen. I did a lot of the talking. Whenever we met, I am the one who did all the talking. But what she gave in return often left me feeling good about myself, feeling encouraged. She lifted my spirits. And that's how I always refer to her as my oasis. Anytime I found myself in the morning, I had some time to spare, I would call Martha and tell I'm dropping by. And she always made me feel like she was so happy to see me. You can see it in her eyes. She was always happy to see me. Always made me feel so good. And the things I talked about, and she would look at it, and she was admirative. You know, and I told her what I did, we did this and we did that. She's just admiring all the things and saying, continue, Lindian, continue. And many times when I was despondent, she'd say, no, you have to continue. Yes, it's, you know, she encouraged me. So in the Creole, although we never discussed her work or discussing, well, my work as such, but we discussed education in general, you know, and all the changing times, especially in education. And also that education, culture was taken out of education, of the Ministry of Education. And culture was put in with creatives and tourism, entertainment, rather than creating the individual, the St. Lucian citizen that we're trying to build in education. So we agreed on these things. And she took things, she took whatever negativity she had in her life, she took things, experiences, whatever lies threw at her, with seemingly stoicism, but with humor as well. She always found some humor in the things that were negative or affected her negatively. She seemed to take it all in stride. But Martha left behind some valuable gems. In her well-researched lectures, the lecture that she did for, I think it was Emancipation, FRC lecture, she did on the language situation and the language planning and language policy for St. Lucia. I think very well-researched, thorough, because I listened to it and impressed. And I remember when she was preparing it, she asked me for a lot of the things that we were doing in Creole, so she could mention it because she was so impressed with what we were doing with the Creole committee. And she did mention it, and it was so methodical, so well laid out. And I read it again, and I realized how much work she really put into that. She's so thorough. So a good model for when you're preparing. So I always use her as my yardstick. And another gem, the lecture she did, the Allsop lecture. I remember before she did that, when she was working on the paper, and she told me, boy, they asked me to do this Allsop lecture, and she was overwhelmed. I said, she wasn't sure if she would be up to the task. And I said, Martha, go do it. And she took the challenge. That's one thing about Martha. She accepted challenges. And I think it's her in her knowing that God would be with her. And I reminded her of that each time. I said, well, just do it, and God will give you the words. So I would, and I said the same thing to her too when I visited her in the hospital. And I read something to her that spoke to this, saying, I think it was something from the New Testament I had read. And when he asked, what's his name, just one of the prophets to speak, and he said, no, I didn't know, I don't have the words or whatever. And he said, just go speak, and God will put the words in your mouth. Something to that effect that I read to her. And she held my hand and she said, thank you. She was so happy that I read that to her, telling her that this is, you've come such a long way and you had it in you. And another one of her, I put some notes down there because I don't want to ramble on and on and on, so I could keep it short. Her spiritual reflections in her work, Citadel, about the loss, personal loss, and grief. I think that's recommended reading for any person, male or female, going through these experiences, experience of loss, separation from any loved one, a loved one. So because once you're going through all the emotions that you go through in times like those, she addressed all of these in her spiritual work, and especially grief. I've had some of these in my life. And all the emotions that you go through and that we're confronted with in all these situations, she addresses all of this: hurt, self-doubt, the aloneness, fear of the unknown, when you felt that that person had to be there all the time. So when that person is gone, you wonder how you'll get by without them. And we're not able to put into words a lot of these emotions that we go through, but Martha's Citadel, it's a recommended companion throughout life, anytime we go through these things. And I went through it again, and it was so, shall I say, helpful. And I realized that was really well put together, so that anybody going through that, you get something out of it. So it's a work I want to recommend, and it is something you will take with you through life. And as somebody read just so I think it was Paba, said that, no, it was the teachers, that she's not the map, she doesn't tell you what to do, but the beacon. I really agreed with that assessment. She lit the path. She showed you what you could do. She showed you yourself. And another quotation somebody said about is how the person makes you feel is what's important. The friend, how they make you feel. And how Martha made me feel was the reason why she will always be in my heart. Thank you.
Any other? I think there's two more. Okay.
All that she came to give, she gave and went again. Like the natural beauty of a flower, in my That is my Mafa was a genius. I met Mafa late. I remember that giant of a woman at the primary school, but Musitati what? I was a little thing. But I used to see that figure, authority in Martha. But Musitati what? I was a lad, so I didn't pay much attention. I was in TABC, I was in not TABC, but in RC Junior, small RC at the time. And then I went to big RC and she was still there. But it is later in life, when I encounter her again as an adult, that I realized the gem that she was. And I had the privilege to sit at her feet before she passed on. And Lindy and I was at that hospital, and I think her daughter came by and left. And I had the privilege to just stand and massage her feet for more than an hour. I was just massaging, and she was not in pain, but she was like in another world. And what a privilege it was to massage her feet. And the thing about Mafa I like most of all, when you're in her immediate presence, she treats you like you're so special. You are the only person in the world. And she had that way of making you feel good about yourself, you know, and not judgmental, but with a quiet, subtle, and beautiful soul. What a beautiful soul she was. And I try to go into literature and think of how I would end this little space that I'm occupying now. And I think the best way to describe it is all that she came to give. She gave and went again, like the natural beauty of a flower. I thank you. Let me also say, this calabash is for the family. Our national tree, Lucente Puget in Latin, and I want to present that to the family in remembrance of that darling of a woman.
Okay. One more person, okay.
Pardon me, sir. Thank you all. I wasn't planning to say anything, but apparently many of you weren't either. I'm a man of few words, so I won't say much, except that everything I've heard so far, I think it's true. It resonates with me. I got to know Martha mid-90s, when I started going out with Arlette. Meeting her was interesting. She was a warm person. She was warm. She was welcoming. I think it was Lindy who said she made you feel like you were special, and you always felt like she was so happy to see you. She basically said those words, that she was very happy to have seen you. I'll just share a couple of memories. When she was preparing for the Richard Alsop Memorial Lecture in, was it March 2022? She asked for my help as an IT person, yes. Of course, I was happy to assist. And I must say, after it went over, it was finished, the number of comments she got, the praise she received. She clearly was an intelligent woman, but the scholars were in attendance and the praise they were heaping upon her, I got to appreciate a bit more that her was a giant of an intellectual, person right there, so calm, so relaxed, so unassuming. And it made me appreciate her a little bit more because I had high regard for her, I'll say that. But what I'll always remember is how grateful she was in the simple things. The few times that I met her by surprise, dropping by to see her, and how grateful she was just for that opportunity to have met you, to have had a conversation with you. And many a time I left her house thinking, I only planned to be there for 10 minutes, but an hour somehow went by. And that was not a surprise. If you really knew who she was, you just lost track of time in her presence. You were in a special place where you could have resided, like you were saying, Jomo, just being in her presence. So I'd like, following in your footsteps, that calabash which was presented to suggest to the family that although it was empty, it should be filled with the thoughts, the memories, our feelings And I dare say I'm pleased to have met her, and I can imagine what wonderful memories that you would have had of her growing up. She was enormously proud of you, her children and her grandchildren, and I was always inspired seeing the wall of photographs in the house. So with these few words, I'll end, but I would like to say that I'm very pleased to have made it here this evening, and everything I've heard, I think, rings true. It resonates. She really was an enormously talented, thoughtful, calm, witty, the giant of a woman. Thank you.
Well, according to the program, we're supposed to have some Mafa in photo. Yeah. Okay. You want to make another? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Come forward.
Excuse me for coming here a third time, but I just want to share with you spoke about her humor, her sarcasm. I want to share with you that I was a victim of that sarcasm. We attended a public lecture together. Everything was delivered in Creole. And I very confidently thought I should make a contribution and stood up to speak. And I said to the man, "Ou ka double moi? Ou di sa, après ça, ou ka do sa, ou ka double moi?" And he responded and so on. Much later on, when we were going home on our home, Martha said, "Agatha, what is double?" And again, confidently I explained what is double, you know, he's confusing me. I think maybe long after a lady explained, I should not have said double, Zuka, touble, and not double.
Okay. All right. While we're seeing those photographs, anybody else? Kristen? Anybody else? Anybody else? Or we have enough talk already? Had enough talk? Somebody's looking at me out there. I suspect she wants to say something. No? Yeah, no? You said, yeah.
So which mind you have to change your mind?
No, I had planned to say it, the first time around, but I thought, well, maybe it wouldn't have gone down so well, but now I think maybe I can say it. No, it all had to do with Iram. We were in bel canto together. And I remember this, well, I won't call it either famous or infamous duet that we sang. You don't bring me flowers anymore. And we were practicing that, and then once I stood and said, "Good, I hope Mafa don't hear that." So that was it. So now, mind you, I shared, when I was putting a few notes down, I shared it with somebody. And she told me, "I don't think you should say that, So that's why I didn't say it. But now I feel that perhaps, And it really was because we acted it out. There was and I understood why he didn't bring me flowers anymore, because we were sitting there. All I did was, a big hat, and I was washing, doing this million jobs, So no wonder he didn't bring me flowers anymore. So I thought, that's out. I would have left everything inside, but it's out.
Please feel free. Any other contribution, observation? Yeah. I guess you can look at what's happening in photographs out there. Mm-hmm. think we have seen quite a bit. Yeah. Okay. But, Madame Gongwek, quand on dit changer l'idée, moi, changer une garçon qui dit, il y a un letterman. Bon combat. Les gars des garçons, en ce cas-là, ils viennent pour pleurer. Mais même là, Madame garçon, il dit changer l'idée. Il ne peut pas pleurer encore. Okay. Well, at this time, Papa, say some prayers of commendation.
I was saying to Bert a while ago that, we've lost so many persons, and we've had such beautiful sharings that if somehow we could pull together all of those reflections and we are thinking of some ideas as to how we can do that, because if you were not here for the funeral, if you were not here for this, you would have missed so much. And there's some way in which we should sort of hold that moment and share that moment. So we are thinking about it, thinking how we can do it. And we are back here, Dame, and of course, at the back of our minds, at the last time we were here was Hazel, and two great friends, companions in journey, in language, linguistics, Creole, and the arts and everything, so as Derek says, too many. So let us cherish the moments that we have. Let's appreciate those who are with us. When we think of the gift that we have of somebody like a Kendall here with us, we think of somebody like a Boo Hinkson, Barbara Cadet, Jane, these are all treasures that we have right here with us now. And to really appreciate the gift and the privilege of the moment. So on this note, shall we stand for a few prayers of commendation? Father Vino, who is the parish priest of Mafa's parish, said he was going to be here to do that, but he called early on to say that he would not be able to do it. So we'll just replace him. We will do the litany of the saints, and your response will be, pray for her. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. And now you say, pray for her. Holy Mary, Mother of God, holy angels of God, Abraham our father in faith, David, leader of God's people, all holy patriarchs and prophets, St. John the Baptist, St. Joseph, St. Peter and St. Paul, St. Andrew, St. John, St. Mary Magdalene, St. Stephen, St. Ignatius, St. Lawrence, St. Perpetua and St. Felicity, St. Agnes, St. Gregory, St. Augustine, St. Athanasius, St. Basil, St. Martin, St. Benedict, St. Francis and St. Dominic, St. Francis Xavier, St. John Vianney, St. Catherine, St. Teresa, all holy men and women, saints of God. Say, Lord, save your people. Lord, be merciful. Lord, save from all evil, from every sin, from Satan's power, at the moment of death, from everlasting death, on the day of judgment, by your coming as man, by your suffering and cross, by your death and rising to new life, by your returning glory to the Father, by your gift to the Holy Spirit, by your coming again in glory. We'll say, Lord, hear our prayer. Be merciful to us sinners, Lord, hear our prayer. Bring Mafa to eternal life, first promised in baptism, Lord, hear. Raise Mafa on the last day, for she has eaten the bread of life. Let Mafa share in your glory, for she has shed in your suffering and death. Jesus, Son of the living God, Lord, hear. We commend Martha to Almighty God and entrust her to her Creator. She has returned to Him who formed her from the dust of the earth. May Holy Mary, the angels, and all the saints be with her. May Christ, who was crucified for her, bring her freedom and peace. May Christ, who died for her, admit her into his garden of paradise. May Christ, the true shepherd, acknowledge her as one of his flock. May he forgive all of her sins and set her among those he has chosen. May Martha see her Redeemer face to face and enjoy the vision of God forever. Lord Jesus Christ, Savior of the world, we pray for your servant Martha. For her sake you came down from heaven. Receive her into the joys of your kingdom. For though she has sinned, she has not denied the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, has believed in God, and has worshipped him as her Creator. And now together we pray for Martha's family and for her loved ones. And together we pray the family prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord be with you. May the blessed mighty God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit come down upon us and remain with us forever and ever. Amen.
Okay, we may have our seats now. Do we have a bit of all right. Oh yes, true, that's true, yeah. Oh, yeah, family, thank you before we go. Thank you from the family. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. As is this theme with this evening, I didn't know I was speaking until like 10 minutes ago, so this will be brief. It has been lovely to hear today and the past few weeks all the memories and the different aspects of Grandma's life. It was very sudden, given that we were preparing for her 80th in a couple of months, and so it has been comforting to know that she has touched everyone here today and, throughout St. Lucia and, the rest of the world. She said to me in May last year, "I'm an only child and I have made a dynasty." And she has indeed. So thank you, everyone. Oh. And then we have the logo the family crest. So from me and my family, thank you everyone for loving her, for your impact on her life. Thank you for organizing this event in honor of her. Thank you for the calabash. And thank you for sharing your memories with her. Thank you.